And now it's time for me to invite our next speaker. So our next speaker is Simeonka Manova from Bulgaria. She is PCC coach with PhD degree. So are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yeah, the connection is great.
I hope it will be like that till the end of the presentation.
Okay, so you're kindly welcome.
Thank you very much. So, I would like to start by challenging myself so that I can serve you as an example for challenging you in a coaching sessions in a foreign language. So, this will be really a challenge for me. Добрый день! Меня зовут Мони, и сейчас я говорю по-российски в первый раз с тех пор, как мне было 14 лет. Спасибо за то, что присоединились к конференции. Для меня чест быть здесь с вами и поделиться моим профессиональным опытом в кросс-културном коучинге и коучинге на иностранном языке. И теми вызовами и открытиями, которые у меня были. Пусть они вдохновят вас и пригодятся вам. А я из Болгарии и живу за границей последних 16 лет, что значит, что большую часть времени я не говорю на родном языке. Это определенно плюс в кросс-культурном коучинге, но это не значит, что это не представляет собой вызов, и это вы увидите через минуту. Because what I really would like to share with you is not only how perfect coaching can be in foreign language, which depends to kind of what is your level. If it is basic, you will get frustrated in communicating. But there are many more things you need to consider because you are first coaches and then English-speaking individual. So now that I consider that the main three characteristics that could be vulnerable in terms of cross-cultural coaching and foreign language are coaching presence, creating trust, and active listening. So the examples I will give you from my practice are examples where I was challenged, and either I was able to go through the challenge in the same moment, or I needed to do it after some years, because we can get different speed of improvement. But the fact is to believe that this improvement will have the opportunity to get this improvement. So my first challenge for you is to ask you to think about how do you greet somebody. Imagine you see somebody you haven't seen for a long time, maybe your best friend that lives abroad, or your mom that is in another city in Russia and you need to cross long distances, so maybe you see it once per year. How do you understand that the person that you meet really likes you and really is happy to meet you? So definitely you will smile, your eyes will be shining, your eyes will be shining. You give a hug, you give a smile, you give a kiss. But what is most important? Are there words? How strong can you send a message that you are happy to see somebody? So I would like to do the same with you. I will celebrate our meeting in 5 different languages. And my first challenge is to think about what was my energy, doesn't matter what I was saying. What was my energy when I was greeting you? And I'm happy to see you. So I think about you as you are my best friend, which stays in Bulgaria and which I see maybe twice a year. So, hola, che tal? Che hermoso verte. Ciao, come stai? Che bello rivederti. Cześć, a jak się masz? Tak miło się spotkać z tobą. Здравей, радвам се да те видя, толкова съм доволна. And then, hello, nice to meet you, how are you? Of course, if I am face to face, it will be even stronger. But I imagine that the energy that I put into celebrating our meeting is perceived, doesn't matter the words that I use. So the first thing I consider that is important in a cross-cultural coaching and in coaching in foreign language, as in many other things that we do in life, are our beliefs and our emotions towards it, because they're the ones that impact our state, and as a result, our performance, as much as we can talk about performance in coaching, because what matters most for a coach is to put the client in the best resourceful state for him to reach his objectives, because it's our client that has the manual and the recipe for reaching his success. What we do is just allowing him or her, I use him for making it shorter, but for me, this is male or female, doesn't matter. So what we do is to allow him or her to read it loud, because they are not used to it. They are not used to read all their resources. So the first thing I would like you to ask, you can use the chat box if you feel like, is to finish the next sentence. Coaching in a foreign language could be, write just one word, whatever, a word that will express for you what is coaching in a foreign language could be. Okay, so I see opportunity, adventure, interesting, amazing. Well, this is a great point to start with. I'm really happy to read these things. It could be yet for somebody, challenging, strange, could be not at ease, could be difficult or blocking at the beginning. And yet, yes, I see also not easy. So yes, there we can have, it can be odd. Okay, so my next question is, cross-cultural coaching could be. You can write a word if you feel like. It's not exactly the same like coaching in English, cross-cultural coaching. So if you feel like a different sensation, put it. I see nature, eye-opener, research, careful. Great, it's so empowering. I get inspired. I hope you will be as well at the end of the session. And the third question is, coaching in Russian could be. So again, you can use and write if you feel like. Careful. Comfortable, deep, something usual and native. Opening. Okay, so if you feel like, you can continue writing, but this is a work also for you, not only for me. To me serves to know which of examples I have prepared to give you. But what is most important, the work that you do inside of you while you are listening to me. Because my point is also to empower you, not only to give you some hints. So for me personally, coaching is an opportunity to meet new people, to travel around the world, even if not physically, to challenge myself, my cultural beliefs, my history, my customs, and to speak foreign languages and experience kinesthetically the language in my body. This is a topic we some probably kind of underestimate, but how our body feels when we speak in a foreign language is very important for our coaching presence. For me, personally, I speak 5 languages, so coaching in 4 of them simultaneously, I mean, not with the same client, but one after another is not a problem. I don't have preference, maybe a kind of a bit for English, because I did my coaching education in English in London. And then I also consider English very pragmatic language, a language that allows you to make a short question with a deep impact. Think about the question, what will that do for you? You have a client, it comes to you and asks, I want to have the newest Ferrari model. And then you ask, what will that do for you? And he thinks and he says, well, people will notice me. So what actually he wants is to be noticed. Then you say, okay, what will that do for you? And he says, well, this means that I will be loved. So actually what he wants is not a Ferrari, but he thinks that this is the mean to get loved or to get affection. So what will that do for you is very difficult for me personally to translate in Bulgarian, in Italian, or in Polish. I really need to ask two questions or to make the question very long. So from this point of view, for me, English is very pragmatic and easy to use. So now, think about a session in which you were really connected with your client. So connected that at the end of the session, you felt empowered, you felt that you have learned, that the client was in a resourceful state, and that he gets to a knowledge that was new for him. So think your body experience, what you heard, what you saw, what you felt at the end of this session. Feel this deep connection with the universe. Because this is what happens when you are really connected with your client. The magic is happening. And it doesn't depend on your nationality and language. So what really matters? Stay in this state. And this is where we start from. So as we said, each human being, as you see on the picture, he has thousands of processes that are happening inside of him. Emotions, habits, memories, culture, feelings. We as a coach, though, in the moment in which we enter into relationship with our client, we need to be like the white space around these pictures. Because when the client comes to us, he does not expect us to understand every single word he is saying. He expects us to understand his soul, his intimate world, what he is sharing with us that he hasn't done with anybody else. The problems, the challenges, the fears, whatever. He is there as a human being and wants to be able to do something he's not able to do alone. So he needs your support. That's why he's looking for you. He's not looking for your language. He's looking for your support, which can be given in many ways. Of course, if you know 10 words in English, it will be a bit difficult. But if you have intermediary level, it's absolutely different then. So he challenges our culture and our beliefs because he brings his own. And that's why we need kind of to be free of ours, because we are like a mirror. The client is talking loud, his soul, and we are reflecting so he can see. And the cleaner we are in our presence, the better the reflection of the own image of the client will be. So also think when you talk with somebody, if you are coached, in different coaching courses you have taken part or peer coaching, you were also coachee. I imagine also in English. If not, it's good to try it. So imagine that you are coached by somebody in English and you have an issue that you want to go through. Now, maybe your coach could be, afraid, like being a coach in English, but think about you as a client. Especially, it's not said that who are you going to coach is a native speaker or it's a foreign language also for him. Imagine you coach an Italian in English. The fear that you have of coaching somebody in English could be even stronger for the client who needs to express his own emotions in English. And this is the place where you are on the same boat. And this is where you, as a coach, apply your coaching capabilities, abilities, competences, knowledge. Because you are the one that can put the client into a resourceful state. You are there for the client. So the client needs to be held. My first example from my practice is from while I was doing my English course in London in NLP and coaching, and I had to work with a guy who was he was very interesting. His accent was okay, so I could understand most of the thing. But he comes to me and says, "Well, I have an issue I would like to solve, but I can't tell you what it is all about. It's too personal." So the first thing that I did was my mind, you know, in 30 seconds, your mind can go all over the place. So the first things I thought, he does not trust me enough. But if I don't know what the story is all about, how I can help him. So there was this moment in which I was completely lost. And then what came like a light in the tunnel was the first sentence that he said. I have an issue that I want to solve. So he was involved. He was determined, and it was just a matter that maybe it was too personal, so he couldn't go through it. And I said, okay, we go with what it is. I couldn't do anyway. He was there, and he was asking me for help. So the practice consisted, the NLP exercise we did was face a challenge, find 3 resources that you can use and that you have expressed somewhere in your life, and put them in the current situation. We started working, and we found out easily the first resource. We found out the second one. We found the situations where he had been in possession of this resource. And then we kind of defined the third one, which was being direct without being afraid of hurting the other one. So now he couldn't find a situation in which it was possible. We talk a bit, and in one moment I said, okay, maybe you have children. You have taught them some moral rules. You wanted them to have some values. So maybe when you were teaching them these values, you were like that. Or maybe during your Sunday game with your mates, somebody behaved improperly and hurt somebody by kicking. You acted again. And he thought for a moment, his eyes was wide open, and he said, I got it, thank you. What I learned from this experience were 2 things. First, what I was told was true. Content doesn't matter. What matters is the process that stays behind the content, the process of the client, the scheme, the thought, the behavior. And second, if I don't know the content, I am more creative. If I had known where he was needing this quality to what environment, probably I wouldn't brought up his family or his Sunday game. But because I was absolutely free to choose from whatever was there, I could choose to something that was empowering for him. So I didn't have limitations, and yet I was able to hold him. And here comes the second competence we talked about, which was creating trust. If you remember, the first thought that I got with this client was, he does not trust me. As we all know, trust is the basic of the success of every relationship. And it doesn't matter of the language. It can be that 2 people from different countries don't understand each other, but if one falls, the other keeps him and carries him. So trust can be built and is built without words. If a client has come to you and has chosen you, he knows that you are not a mother tongue speaker. He has seen your profile. Nowadays with social media, he can see where you are from, what languages he speaks. So if he chooses you, it's because he knew there is something that attracts him and something that finds useful. Rarely it could be the fact that because you are Russian, or because it could be because you are Russian. If you have a new Italian expat in Russia who wants to get used to the Russian environment, he would like, if I were such, I would like to have a Russian coach in English so that I could learn more about the country apart from getting resourceful. So how do you trust somebody? How do you choose to trust somebody? There are so many researches I've went through, especially in Harvard Business Review, and the main factors for choosing to trust somebody is his capabilities about what I'm looking for. So if I'm looking for an English teacher, I will look for his degree in English, for how well he speaks, for the vocabulary, for his approach as a teacher. If I'm looking for an engineer, I will look for his engineer degree. If I'm looking for a coach, what matters is how that person makes me feel. Do I trust her? Is it able to put me into a resourceful state? Do I have a new discovery? Do I feel support? Because this is what matters when you're with somebody. And I have a favorite quotation from a song from the movie My Best Friend's Wedding, which for me is the real expression of how we build trust. And it says, "The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. The touch of your hand say you'll catch me whenever I fall. You say it best when you say nothing at all." So, how do you do it with your clients? How do you make them feel safe, where they can face their fears in an environment which you hold for them? This is by trusting them that they can do it, by respecting their time to move, their speed. So you push as much as they could bear, and being able to hold them and make them feel that they are safe. Because it can be that during a session, some client could even start crying. So what you do? Do you cry with him? Or you recognize the feeling and you support him and smoothly bring him out to a place where he can continue after the grief that he expressed, he can continue working? And here is my next question. Is there a difference for you in coaching a mother tongue client and coaching somebody who speaks a foreign language? So if you coach an Englishman, or if you coach, for example, an Italian who speaks English. You can use the chat box if you feel like, or you can also
Moni, there is no sound. You switched on your microphone. Moni, we couldn't hear you. Colleagues, we have some problem with connections. So let's wait for a while, and maybe you can write down your questions using Q&A box.
Yeah, colleagues, let's wait for Simeonka. She seems to have some problems, technical problems.
Okay, here I am.
Yeah, okay, great.
I was not
Great to have you again.
Did you hear me all the time?
Yeah, we got.
So, did you see this slide?
Moni, we are not seeing any slides. You are not demonstrating slides.
Well, I share my screen.
Okay, no, no slides. Please go to share screen, click on share screen.
Yeah, I mean, I did, but something, that's why I thought that, okay. So you missed half of the slides, but I imagine that Dmitry will give it to you after the presentation.
Yes, no problem. Next week, I'm going to send all materials from all teachers. Thank you, Moni.
Okay, so excuse, but this is part of the adventure, having technical issues. We are in a world of technologies, and we as human beings have something more than the technologies, which is being creative, while they have a program and they stick to it. So let's continue from where we ended up. The last thing I hope you heard was the question, whether does it matter for you that the client is an English-speaking mother tongue, or it's a foreigner who speaks in English. You can use the chat box, or you can keep it, you can think about it personally. For me, the challenge really was when I was coaching mother tongue English speakers. Because of their accent. You have accents, American, English, Canadian, Australian, and only in London you have at least 17. Okay. Exactly. As I read, it's interesting to have sessions with both, so it gives various experience. For me, it doesn't matter. And yes, challenges are more with native as they speak very quickly or they chew words. So what challenge I had twice, one was with a Canadian client and another one was with an English-speaking Londoner. So I had, in the first case, I couldn't understand barely a word and we were face to face. So it was again in London, in one practicing circle. I was there and I tried to avoid the guy as much as possible. And one moment I thought that, you know, he can get hurt. Maybe he'll think that I have something personal. So we worked together. But all the time I was thinking about whether I understand, how much I understand, whether my question is connected to what he has just told. And basically, I didn't feel a real rapport. It was kind of, the session was strenuous, and at the end of the session, I was tired. I met him 2 months later in an online course, and we got another session, but this time it was in a virtual room. I couldn't see him, and I couldn't, I was not using my eyes. It went great. There was great rapport, great contact, and my English hasn't changed within 2 months, or my English understanding. So at the end of the session, what I realized was that in the first time, I was using mainly my eyes. In the second time, I was using my ears. And for me, it made the difference. So if we talk about active listening, and you see the Chinese word for listening, I got really stunned by how deep that word can be expressed in Chinese. We don't have in our alphabet this meaning. So if you see, you listen with your ears, you listen with your eyes, you listen with your heart, with your mind, and you have your undivided attention to the client. So what counts most is that the client feels that in this moment, he is the only one that exists for you. And your attention is all for him. He's the most important person in the world during the coaching session. And the second case was with a Canadian girl. She was really, we had the intake session. I started talking about my experience, my professional life experience, the way I was in this moment. So at one point, she said, okay, she started talking. I invited her to do the same. And I realized that actually I couldn't understand 50% of the things she was saying. So I interrupted her gently and said, excuse me, I guess I will need some time to get used to your accent because it's new to me. So be patient if I ask you to repeat something or to explain it in a different way. And if I rephrase or summarize what you've said, Because apart from being a coaching tool in general, in this case, it will allow me to be sure that I got your point. Well, and her reaction was, of course, feel free to do it. It's absolutely normal for me. So think also about the fact that native speakers, if they got a foreigner as a coach who speaks in English, they are used to not be completely understood because of their accent. Usually these are people that have traveled a lot, have talked with other foreigners, so they've got already the idea that when they speak, probably not all the time they will be understood. So they need to rephrase in other ways. And the other example, when I mentioned at the beginning, was about how our body feels when we speak foreign languages. And we go to the kinesthetic experience, which is one of the senses very used in NLP. I feel differently in every language that I speak. For example, I was in Poland talking to a friend of mine on a cup of tea, and we were slowly, smoothly talking very calm way in Polish. Then my husband, at that time boyfriend, called me, and I stood up. I started speaking in Italian, so my voice was louder. I was gesticulating. I was moving fast. And after 10 minutes, the phone call was over. I sat back at the table, and I started talking with my friend again in Polish. She looked at me, and there was like eyes wide open. And she said, I can't believe it. I would have bet that you were angry. Because, you know, all your body was expressing an emotion that was not there the moment before. And now you sit here calm again as if nothing happened. And I said, I thought a bit what really has happened. This her comment of hers made me thought what has happened to me. And I realized that when I speak Italian, I speak it with all my essence. So also my body speaks Italian. It's like maybe you've been in Italy or you have seen Italian movies. They speak loudly. You could even think that they are quarreling. Or also they use a lot of gestures without words. But the gesture can be very eloquent about the meaning. While Poles are very calm, they don't speak loudly. They are very kind of not slow in a good way in movement, while Italians are very fast in whatever, when they speak and they gesticulate. So this was a comment of a person that was not a coach. She said, I've noticed the difference when you were speaking, and at the first time he was, let's say, he got a conclusion that was not the correct one. So think about your client. He will have, if he speaks in foreign language, most probably he will have emotions that he hasn't recognized and that are new for him with respect to his own language. Okay, so this on one side allows him to have new experience and new awareness, and on the other side it allows him also to be kind of dissociated from the challenge he has or from the feeling he has, the fear he has, and he can face it more easily because it's in a foreign language. For example, I will never say a bad word in Bulgarian. It kind of, I don't feel it in my mouth and my body does not accept it, but I can say it in Italian because it not necessarily speaks directly at that intimate level that I understand how bad it is. Of course, doesn't mean that I say it, but it usually happens. Many people go abroad, especially boys, and ask first for the bad words to learn because it's fun. So I don't know how much more time we have, because I have prepared, okay, I would like to share with you the last experience. It was, I was coached in Italian by a PCC professional coach, 60-year-old lady, so around, with a lot of experience. And I was a brand new graduated coach. I wasn't even an ACC at that time. And the issue that I brought was I I see in front of me white space. It's like a fog, blurred, and I don't know what is inside. I would like to get more clarity. So we started working and talking, and in one moment she says, well, what if you rewind and see what was there before? And I looked at her and I said, I tried to test rewinding, and I said, well, this is not my experience. I don't need to rewind anything because there wasn't there something before. It's not something I have forgotten. It's something new, something that I'm waiting to get born. So actually, by somebody will say she made an error. No, she helped me to go even deeper and understand what I was actually facing. Because at the beginning, I knew only that it's white and there is nothing inside. And of course, there were different options. She chose one, which helped me to discover that it is the other one. So it's like, don't be afraid of erroring or making a mistake, because be sure that the client will check. And if there is trust, you need also to be thankful that the client will give you the feedback, this is not his emotion, and that his emotion is something else. Because in this way, you are helping him to go deeper into what he is on his way. And here I have one favorite quotation from John Maxwell that says, a man is big enough to admit his mistakes, smart enough to profit from them, and strong enough to correct them. So even if you make an error, even if you don't understand, just be yourself, be congruent, and admit it. Because what the clients need is to see, usually the most difficult thing for clients is to be vulnerable. They don't want to accept their vulnerability. And at the same time, they come to you because they have one. So if you show them that you can be vulnerable and you face it and you go through it, they will follow you wherever. They will go with you because they know that they can do it as well. So, and final, my last sentence is, if you, now we will have some time for questions, you can contact me on, you can look for me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or you can write me personally to my email. I'll be happy to answer all the questions that I won't be able to answer now, today. And what matters most is that client's involvement is the basis of the result of coaching success. This is what you need to get, not his English, not your English. It's how much he wants to go through what he's on and how much he trusts you. So I hope I was, I gave you some insights that you can use, or you can also pass to somebody else, because this is, the more we are empowered, the more people in the planet or in the world will be at their best. And I guess this will mean less wars, more cooperation, and more connection and love. So thank you very much for listening. Now,
thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It was great. And especially for your introduction part in Russian. We have a lot of comments like, wow. And
I tried to do my best.
It was totally unexpected and it was great. Thank you so much. And we have a question from Lilia, and the question about clients. So with what clients do you prefer to work? And maybe it's about nationalities.
Nationalities. I don't have preference. What I think is, the more different they are, the better it is. So now I work with an Indian person. I've worked with Italians, with Spaniards, with Canadians, with Americans. And for me, it's every time a new experience. So, because when the person has come to you, he, as I said, he has come with your soul. And souls are beautiful in every nationality.
I see. And the next question is from Janara.
Yes.
So, dear Simeonka, so many things in your stories respond to my life experience. Thank you for making a common sense. In your opinion, what should be is a must in cross-cultural coaching, except of the mandatory coaching competences and ethic, of course? Thank you.
So, given that we have coaching competences and our ethics, what else? For me, it's your nature, your state when you are with the client, and why you do it. Why do you want to coach in cross-cultural environment? What is that thing inside of you that pushes you to go there? Why don't you stay in your comfort zone and coaching in Russia? So what matters is your why, and that why that is perceived by the client. I don't know whether I answered directly to the question. I hope so.
Okay, so, and the next question. You have told that you speak 5 languages.
Yes.
Do you notice more similarities or more differences when you speak with clients?
Clients, you mean when I coach in different languages?
Yeah.
So, the similarities are in the culture. So if you coach 3 Italians, they definitely will have something in common. If you coach 3 Englishmen, they will have something in common. Then depends whether you coach them also in their native language, in a foreign language. There is difference if they speak their mother tongue or not. This could be different. I think from client's perspective, from my perspective, doesn't matter.
Thank you for your answer. And another question. So from Evgenia, how comfortable for you to understand Eastern people? This very special accent.
Eastern people, do you mean Asia or do you mean Eastern Europe? I suppose Asia, but I don't want to, to get into Asia. Okay. So, well, it's very interesting with the Indian client I have. Yes, they have special accent, but it matters where you are connecting with the person. Okay, so for example, we started talking, and one moment he used the word universe. So what happened is I used his language, and I started from there. And there was at the end of the session, he said, well, it was so nice to see how you used my language and you moved forward, because I used it then as a metaphor. So what you look for is the energy that stays beyond the word. The way he said universe, I knew that was important for him. So of course, then you a bit, how to say, maybe you guess, so you can ask if the accent is very strong. The point is, ask if you don't understand. They're there to talk, and you are there to learn, and they learn as well.
Thank you. We have a lot of comments. It's very interesting. Thank you. Great insight. A lot of things, a lot of insights. Thank you, Moni. And we have only 1 minute, so maybe a final word from you.
Okay, so the things that most matter. So I summarize shortly what wanted to be my message during the presentation, if maybe somebody. So be curious, be vulnerable, accept that you can be vulnerable, think about the client and what you can do best for the client. And the content doesn't matter. What matters is what is the process, the emotions and the feelings the client put in the situation, not the content. So, of course, if you want to connect, ask other questions, whatever, you can do it. And I have, just for the participants shortly, I say the questions that you take with you. it's not important whether you answer to me. So what you've learned about me as a person during this presentation, what you've learned from me as a professional coach for your practice, what has inspired you, what was not interesting for you, and finally, what is my level of English? Did you notice it? Or you were focused on what was behind the language?
Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Moni, for your presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me.